So yeah, we'll have a couple of slides and then we'll go into actual demo. I want to do more demo than slides for you guys. We are not in love with the sound of our voices, so please stop us at any and all times that you have questions, and we'll do our best to answer them.
I don't know, your voice is kind of slick.
You think?
You got that Costa Rican accent, man.
Dude, but yours is like, I don't know.
Midwestern?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Phoenician?
Yeah. Ready? Yes. Thank you. All right. Welcome everybody, and welcome to SUSECON, and welcome to our session integrating identity with LDAP for SUSE CaaS Platform. My name is Rodolfo Bejarano. I am based in Houston, Texas, and my boss just walked in, so we're a little bit scared now.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
The sweat has started.
No.
Hate you all.
So he might get a little tense, but I don't. We've been working far too long together, so let's move on. My name is Rodolfo Bejarano. I'm based in Houston, Texas. And I'm a sales engineer, solutions engineer. I have so many titles, I could take the whole hour talking about those. And I'm here with...
My name is Michael Carrington, based in Kansas City, Missouri, and working with our Ceph product and storage, and then also with Rodolfo on fun stuff like CaaS and integration with LDAP. So we met most of you guys prior to our meeting starting. For the gentlemen that I have not met in the back, we'll talk to you after and get your name and where you're at. But enjoy this session, and we'll go from there. So our agenda today is to talk about what is Containers as a Service Platform. Many of you are probably familiar with that. It's going to be a brief overview. And then how we integrate with LDAP. And then Rodolfo is going to give us a demo, and we're going to get into a question and answer period. We are an open company, so if at any point you do have a question, just raise your hand, or if we're ignoring you on purpose, just start shouting it out and yelling at us. It either works.
We won't do that, by the way.
All right, so SUSE Containers as a Service Platform is an enterprise-class container management solution that enables IT and DevOps professionals to more easily deploy, manage, and scale container-based applications and services. That's our architecture slide to say it does exactly what it does, right? It allows you to enable, as they were talking about in the keynote, the ability to move forward and adjust and fulfill individual customers' applications and be able to push something together immediately or quicker. That's done with CaaS.
So we put a lot of our engineering efforts into making the deployment of Kubernetes as simple as possible to give you guys time to do the really important stuff within your organizations. So there's a couple of components, 3 components actually, that are within SUSE Container as a Service Platform. The first one basically is Kubernetes. So we chose Kubernetes over others because of the large popularity as well as the full set feature that it provided. It was the best fit for what we wanted to achieve and provide to you in this product. So Kubernetes is one of the things. We provide 2 container runtimes at this time. One being an open source Docker engine. The second one being Cryo. If you're familiar with Cryo, it's basically a much optimized container runtime than Docker is for running Kubernetes natively. So we provide both, and the whole point, again, from the keynote, to be the open source company, is that we give you more options and you basically choose what you need and what fits. The third component is what's called SUSE Micro OS. Micro OS was built from the ground up specifically and only for deploying containers. Okay, so that's a very basic part of the equation. That the fact that we build it from the ground up and specifically for deploying containers. And complementary technologies would be Salt in our case for the whole deployment framework. Okay, so we utilize Salt to onboard additional nodes and then provide those nodes with whichever role you want to assign, whether it's a master node or a worker node if you're familiar with Kubernetes. And of course, what we do and what we provide to you as customers is the fact that we harden and that it's, as Michael said, enterprise ready for you guys to consume. It's going to be secure. It's going to be curated packages, and so on and so forth. So we guarantee when you guys deploy SUSE Container as a Service platform and provide the support and the patches, which is basically what we do behind the scenes. So these were actually the latest updates that were done to SUSE CaaS Platform 3+. And that is what we'll talk about in part, which is the topic here, external authentication support with LDAP. Prior to this release, the only way to do this, and I will show you how to do it if you wanted to do it that way, we actually provided a Docker image with an internal LDAP server that you had to connect to it and basically feed it all your users and everything, but this was containerized. So it's really hard to get to, as you'll see. We have to go through several hoops to get to this LDAP. So having the external LDAP source or directory made things a lot easier for you guys and for me for this demonstration. We actually implemented this in an internal data center that we have to test all our products. And we've integrated with LDAP for all the products, basically. For OpenStack, for container service platform, for cloud application platform, etc. Using the same external LDAP, so we don't need to manage multiple directories. So this gives you guys some sleep at night and not having to manage multiple repositories. Not repositories, multiple sources. Excuse me. Additionally to that, we added the Nginx ingress controller, and Kubernetes was updated to version 1.10. What's coming with version 4? In essence, the biggest one is that we'll integrate the latest Kubernetes version, whether it's a 1.14 or 1.15. It's still up for debate, but that's coming up real soon. Additionally, we are providing it's not going to come with 4GA, but an additional update down the road. We'll provide support for Kata containers. We will provide monitoring with Prometheus, as well as additional network options like Cilium. So we work, as you heard from the keynote, our partner ecosystem is key to us. Ready today are all of these partners that you can deploy applications that they've actually containerized, and they're ready to be deployed in a Kubernetes native fashion to Container as a Service platform. So if you're working with any of these, in particular with SAP, there's an application that they use which is called Data Hub. If you have SAP in your environments, Data Hub is one that is specifically containerized, and it can deploy quickly and easily with Container as a Service platform.
So why do we want to integrate with LDAP? I'm sure everyone here has 10 different passwords that they use on a daily basis, and everyone wants an environment that's single sign-on, that you can just use that one. Your security team would definitely want that as well. But the purpose is to make it usable and consumable for all your end users without having to manage an additional repository. Now, there's always a time and a place in an organizational structure where individual sign-ons and reduced number of users in a system is going to be okay. But as you scale and you grow CaaS, you'll want to involve and incorporate LDAP. So how do we integrate identity with LDAP? There are a couple of prerequisites. First, you need a working LDAP server. You need the working SUSE Container as a platform cluster, and that's it. Just do some configuration, and that is what I'm going to show you quickly, how easy it is within our GUI, and then Rodolfo is going to show you the back-end side with CLI. So in here you can see our ldap.geeko.land. Geeko.land is our sales engineering domain that we use for all our projects, and our LDAP server is here. But let's pretend that's not there yet, and we're going to click on add an LDAP connector. Go through here, we add it, and it obviously doesn't need to be the host name. It can be, and then go through and what port we're connecting over. Standards 389 with LDAP. Some more stuff, your DN, your password here to your LDAP server, how you identify whether it's a canonical name or whatever your base DN is in that Microsoft LDAP world of great organizational structure. And then any filters or anything that you do to filter on your user base that you're trying to narrow down to. And again, you just filling this out. It's pretty easy. And then you can log in and you get the button to log in with your LDAP server. This is your not your host name appearing there, but it's what as you name it.
It's probably worth mentioning that, as you can see, there's two options there to log in. The top one is for that internal containerized open LDAP that I was talking about. The secondary is the one that Michael created for us to use with our external source. So that's something that will show up every time. So it's something that you need to be careful, because if you go to the top one and you try to log in with your external credentials, it will never connect.
So an extra tab and then an enter for those
right
people that don't like their mouse still.
And the reason for it is if your LDAP fails for any reason, you still have that internal admin as a backup, right? Not to be completely out of your system. So, but that will get you a kubeconfig so that you can do all your tasks. However, you still require to get rights. And the way we provide rights within Kubernetes is by role-based access control. Okay, where basically we already had the user but no rights, so we need to assign a role to that user with some rights in order for you to be able to do things within Kubernetes. Okay, by default, these are created, and as an example, we'll dig deeper into the cluster admin and the cluster member roles, because as you will see, it can get quite dense when it comes to setting up what verbs you can use. And by verbs I mean, and I'll go to it, probably is the best way to explain this. So I've added here the cluster admin, so describe the cluster admin role, and it's basically everything, right? So you can do anything within the cluster. By default, again, if you are part of the administrators group in your external LDAP, you will be given the cluster admin role by default. Okay, this you can change, of course, but that is what comes out of the box. Okay, so that's a very easy way. If you guys are admins, you don't need to go through creating roles for yourselves. You will have the cluster admin role by default. Okay. On the other hand, if you are a member or you want to add other members, there is a number of resources that go hand in hand with verbs on what you or that user can do on your Kubernetes cluster. Okay. So, for example, in the case of the cluster member, the pods resource they have rights to create, delete a collection, get, list, patch, update, and watch. Anything else they cannot do on the Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so again, this could get really dense because there's a lot of resources and a lot of verbs. But that is all very well explained and defined in the Kubernetes documentation. So it's just additional work on what rights you want to assign to certain users, but it definitely is the way to go when using an external LDAP. And as you can see, If you're part of the users group, you will get assigned the cluster member role, just like before the admin showed. Okay. Any questions so far? All right, because that's all we have on slides, and we can jump to the
Demo.
to the fun part. Not that I didn't love your presentation. All right, and of course I've been locked out of my system. Let me start with a live look at Vellum, which is our GUI for Container as a Service platform. As Mike showed on the slides, it's quite easy. Once you're in as an admin, you go to LDAP servers, add new LDAP connector, and you basically go through with choosing a name for the connector, your host server. It is important that you use a host that is validated within the certificate that you're using. If it's not in that certificate, it will spit an error. Okay, so that's important. And we had to go through this exercise where in our case we used Let's Encrypt, and with Let's Encrypt we used wildcards so that this host name would be validated with that certificate. Okay, so that was a bit of a problem we had. But we quickly found out the reason, and we redid the certificates, and then it was all fun. It will support 389 for non-SSL and 636 for the secured port. So that's up to you and your organization requirements. I'm guessing 636 would be the way to go. We didn't feel like that was really a big need for our little environment. This one I also had a little bit of an issue because I was using basically the CA for Let's Encrypt, but it ended up being that I needed the top root CA. So the ones we had created wasn't enough. I needed to go to Let's Encrypt and got the top one where those certs got created from. So here is your admin basically and your password, and like Mike explained, where to get your base DN for your users. There are examples here of everything, so you can take that if that's the case. In most cases it would be different. The user attribute mapping as well is important on what it will use for the UID and whatnot. And finally the group and group attributes mapping. I guess that's all I had on that front. So what we can do is go through creating a little, can you guys see my screen in the back? Yeah? Okay, so let's start with the old way, okay? So in the old days, I would need to basically connect to my LDAP, to my CaaS Platform admin. From that CaaS Platform admin, I needed to basically go into that Docker container for my open LDAP. And within that open LDAP, I'm gonna cheat because this LDAP search command is a bit long. So you'll basically see that currently there's only two groups, or actually just one group, the administrators group, because I basically have not added any users here. The previous version, we actually had created an additional group here where I needed to add the users and assign those users as members of this group. So it was quite a process, and let me show you the script I had to build in order to automate that. So I have those in, now I no longer use them, but so this is what I was doing before, okay? And let me go all the way to the top here. So I basically had an LDIF to create a new user. I did it on my external source, which was this one. I then had to do some magic with AWK to transform that into the actual path of where the users were in the CaaS platform one. Then I had to add that group into the or that new user I added as a new member of that group in order for me to get the new assigned rights. Okay, so it was quite messy, to say the least. The new way, I can basically just create. I just like you saw there. I took out all of the CaaS platform connections. So I'm basically just gonna do a new user that we're gonna call Nashville. Very appropriate. And I basically just added to my external LDAP, and I'll show you that. So let me go ahead and hopefully this doesn't fail for me here. Great. Let's have a little.
Anyone want to take a bet?
I got a live chicken.
Yeah. It's usually much faster than this, but the internet here is taking a toll from everybody using it. In any case, you'll have to trust me on this one. So I actually can't make this any bigger, but I have a few groups. I have an administrator group, I have a Kubernetes admin, Kubernetes users, and general users. I have a couple hundred users in there. So let's see if that finished. You see, I knew this would happen. But anyway, we can move on, and I can show you guys what this looks like. So if I go, and that's the wrong one. There we go. So if I go, and this I can make bigger. If I go to the LDAP connector that I created and use, for example, I'm going to use one of these trainings that I created for another session, a hands-on session that is on Container as a Service. The password was Nashville.
You're not supposed to give out your passwords.
All right. And this triggers a download, which is my kubeconfig. Okay. So if I wanted to use that, I'll go ahead and stop that because that did not work. So let me make a backup of my user. So when you have a kubeconfig, you go to your home directory, you create a .cube, and there'll be a config file. I'll just create a copy so I don't lose mine. Config BAK. And I will move from the downloads, the kubeconfig to kube config. Okay. I can check the contents. Let me cheat. Okay. Let me go to my cheat sheet here. Where is my cat? I wanted to show you what's in that. Here it is. So this command actually allows me to see what's in that config. As you can see, it is my training 15, I should say, user that I just downloaded. And training 15 is part of the administrators group, which means if you remember from the cluster roles, I will get a cluster admin role for this user. Okay, so I can do basically anything with this user. What else did I want to show you guys? Let me go back to my. Oh, right. So I wanted to show you. Bless you. With that, I wanted to show you the actual cluster roles. So let me just close that out. So I'm gonna describe the cluster role again that I had shown in the slides. And as you'll see, it basically says that I get all the resources, all the verbs, so I can do anything. And if I do the same for the cluster role binding, that's not the one, because it should say group administrators.
Check your context. CTL config and context. Config.
Yep.
Config space get dash context. No.
Kubectl config get
SML.
kubectl. I learned recently that
Get dash context.
get dash. There you go.
There you go. Okay, so you are the right user.
Yeah. Let me see my cheat sheet again. I guess that didn't happen because I have this list one, so let's just do that. And I'll just look for administrators. Administrators, and it will have that same cluster role assigned. Oh, that's why, because I told you it was by default. It's because we created it within SUSE CaaS Platform. It's not a Kubernetes cluster per se, cluster resource per se. So this is the one that gets assigned to my user. Okay, and that's all I had for you today. Any questions? You guys are quiet.
Was this useful?
Okay. So we've actually added also additional resource. Yeah, go ahead.
When you are connecting to LDAP,
Mm-hmm.
all users in the organization have access, or we can filter this?
So
You can filter it.
Yeah, you filter it by groups. So depending to which group within LDAP that user is assigned to, Kubernetes basically reads that, and based on the cluster roles that I showed you, if you add let's say a users group, so yeah, that's probably best if you go there.
So we were talking earlier about the filter. In here, you can put a filter to narrow down to whatever specific group in your organization. If that group already exists, great. If not, you're gonna tell the LDAP people to create a new one for your Linux users or your
and
CaaS
here,
users.
this is where it would basically match it. So in my case, anybody that is part of the administrators group will get all access. But if you want to go deeper, you can do this for your users so that they can do a subset of the things you can do within Kubernetes.
So there's a lot to it that he just described. It's not supposed to make you get it today. It's supposed to get you excited to go walk like a chameleon and come talk to us and learn. So as those questions come up, by any means, let's get to them. So it is our Q&A period. What other questions or answers do you guys have? Anything? Sir?
You guys support, and I don't use CaaS right now, but you guys support in some way on the back end doing like namespacing in Kubernetes, right? To segregate who can control what pods and things like that.
Yeah.
Does this LDAP stuff let you be that fine-grained in terms of permissions on namespaces?
You can, so getting the verbs right up there for assigning for the cluster roles, that's what's going to get you that kind of stuff. It's really
It's very granular. It's so granular that
it's a lot of did this work? No. Did this work?
But we
No.
can check it out. Yeah, it's a trial and error because yeah, it sometimes you think you got the right roles, but I'm just checking the documentation to see if there's actually something for namespace that you can do, but I'm sure there is. namespace are back. Yeah, it's restrict user access. So yeah, there's tons of documents on how to restrict access to namespaces and stuff like that. But like Rick said, it depends on those verbs and those resources that you want to assign.
If you've ever seen the Weird Al movie UHF, the blind guy on the bench doing the Rubik's Cube, and just do one move, did that it? Nope.
That's what it basically boils down to. Any other
Good question.
I hope that clarified it.
All right. Some additional resources for you guys. And again, you will get the slides as part of your registration and scanning in for this course. If you want to come and hear it again, we're doing it again tomorrow afternoon.
You're more than welcome.
And
Maybe we'll be able to contact the server that time.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. We'll fix the internet issues by telling everyone to turn off all their devices when they come into the room. No, and then one of the things we've been asked to do is ask you guys to fill out the survey for feedback.
And be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Honest.
That tall guy was horrible. Guy with the Costa Rican accent, though, real smooth.
Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, any advice or help?
The surveys that you turn in impact your chances to win the prizes. Like if you want to win the 3D printer or something like that, the more surveys you do, the better your odds.
That's true. I don't know if that was explained already.
They said that it was on the sheet of paper. I haven't looked at the sheet of
I
paper.
haven't
so
seen
don't
it,
know.
but yeah, there's this passport thing. The more points you get, the higher chances you have to win really cool prizes. So the surveys is one of them. Going to the technology showcase and talking to people is another one of them. So yeah, make sure to check it out. You see?
Yeah, please do the survey. And
Absolutely. And we hope that this has been helpful to you guys. And again, we'll do this tomorrow. If something comes to your mind overnight, please come see us tomorrow again at the end of our other session, and we can answer the questions you may have.
Or track us down to the
Yeah, we'll be walking around the whole week as well. So feel free to track us down.
Yeah, you'll either hear that Costa Rican accent from across the room, or you'll see the really tall guy. So it'll work out. Come talk to us.
But we want to thank you all for your time, and have a good week, guys.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank you.